Good old Branded. It's been a long time since we've covered Branded on the channel. Ever since really it got limited to one, I haven't paid very much attention to the deck. But it's been seeing some activity recently. It's been hitting some top cuts and things, and I was very curious. It turns out the reason in which I haven't actually been looking at Branded as awfully competitive is because I was looking at it from the lens of what it used to be. Branded has shifted quite massively in terms of how it works and how the playstyle works, and that's all thanks to Cartesia, right? Cartesia allows significantly more flexibility with the deck, especially with the fusion deployment, not really having any downsides within here, and Thrust now making it even more playable. So Branded is the deck that I'm going to be playing around with even more over the next number of potentially days or weeks. This is the list that I was playing right now. I have a couple of replays with this list, and I'm going to talk about it towards the end because I don't think that this is going to be one way or the other very far off of what the finished product is going to look like. We might update the playstyle, I might provide new guides and things the more I learn about the deck as we go, but this, generally speaking, is going to be what it looks like, right? So there's not going to be much variety. I have about 4 replays lined up here, showing off some of the good bits, some of the bad bits, because it does definitely still have its weaknesses. There are things it's very vulnerable to, but as long as you know what its weaknesses are and dance around them accordingly, you can normally eke out a win for sure. It is definitely still one of the better decks in the game, right? Don't get me wrong, for sure. It just takes a different playstyle to what it used to. So we're going to do that deck profile at the end. If you're new to the channel, maybe you're not new and you just haven't subscribed yet, I would definitely ask that you do so. Subscribing is the easiest way to support the channel and easily the most effective. So if you haven't done it, again, it doesn't cost you anything. It helps you. It helps me. Everybody wins. There's no reason for you not to hit the button. It is right there. You can like the video as well if you actually enjoy watching, and if you want to get more involved in the channel, you can of course join us as a member using the link down below or the join button, or even hop onto our Discord, our Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all of that fun stuff is all linked in the description as well. It takes 5 seconds to click a link and hit follow if you're more interested in seeing some things on those platforms as well. But nonetheless, I'm not going to take up any time here right at the start. Let's get right in to game number 1. Alright, so this is our most recent game with the deck here. So this one is after a little bit of practice and learning here. We're going to go for Fusion Deployment, bringing out the Cartesia right off the bat. Normal Summoning Aliber. We are going to be hit with a Havness here, which helps us massively, actually, because we have Thrust in hand. It's so good. They're going to summon Havness. They're going to mill some cards. I believe they whiff on that. They hit Grief, but they didn't have anything to add back off of Grief, so we're going to grab Talent from the deck. We're going to use Talent, take a look at his hand, see what he's dealing with here. We just don't want him to be like hiding an Ash Blossom or anything like that. Luckily for us, he isn't, and we know he's playing Tearlaments here, of course, so we're going to spin back the field spell. We don't need to worry about that. Maybe we should have hit Tactics, but I sort of thought to myself at the time, like, okay, I know he has Tactics, so I can play around it. That ends up not happening, but whatever. We're going to go Branded Fusion now into Albion, the Branded Dragon. Now, this combo is fairly regular and similar to what we used to do, of course, with this. Now, we're going to go for Cartesia's effect here. Because we're going to end up banishing a Dark Monster anyways, might as well make it a Dark Monster from the graveyard. So we're going to fuse Cartesia with an Aliber to go into Granganol, the Dusk Dragon. So now we can banish the Aliber from the graveyard as fusion material to go into Labellion. Now, Labellion will activate Chainlink 1, dropping a card to fusion summon. The Dust Dragon's going to activate Chainlink 2 to send from the deck or extra deck to the graveyard a card. We're going to send Albion the Ashen Dragon or Shrouded Dragon, whatever its name is. We're going to summon out Mirror Jade, tributing off Albion to bring out the Bestial Lubellion. Lubellion then going to activate. We're going to play Branded Lost directly from the deck, special summoning Cartesia out to the field. Albion then going to send Branded Opening to the graveyard to shuffle itself back into the deck. And then during the end phase, we're going to grab Cartesia from the graveyard. We're going to use Albion in the grave to set Retribution to the field, and then we're going to end our turn. So basically we have a quick play fusion with the banishment. We have a counter trap, which isn't live right this second, but it will be momentarily, essentially. So all of this is pretty good. Our quick life fusion, of course, is going to trigger off Branded Lost to hit us with a the little bird thing that I forget the name of. But yeah, so we got a decent enough field, not super powerful, not super broken or anything like that, but it is definitely decent. He does shuffle back our Retribution right off the bat there, which is somewhat unfortunate, dropping Sulliek to search his deck for Reinhardt. That's fine. They're going to go for Reinhardt, sending the Siren from deck to grave, Siren then activating the Fusion Summon, going into Tearlaments Kikalos. Now the thing about the Mirror Jade being able to quick play activate to banish that Kikalos is going to put Tearlaments at a massive disadvantage. We're going to chain to that using Cartesia's effect. We're going to fuse together the Dust Dragon and Mirror Jade to go into Dragostapelia as well. So we're going to banish the Kikalos, and Dragostapelia now is also here to stick around and see if we can't hit something else. Now that's going to trigger Branded Loss to quickly grab us Tri-Brigade Mercourier, which is going to be useful, but they do have the Triple Tactics talent, which I completely forgot about. That was totally my bad, which is going to allow him to steal our newly summoned Dragostapelia. Very detrimental. We do hit the Reinhardt with its effect, but again, it means very little. They're going to go for Triple Tactics Thrust, grabbing the Kashtira Theosis, and they're turning this game around very quickly. They're going to go for the Tearlaments Kashtira, going to use its effect to start milling cards. We're going to go for the Dust Dragon's effect, which is the main reason we did the fusion. We wanted the Dust Dragon to be in the graveyard so we could go Priscenion. And Tearlaments Kashtira are going to mill some cards. They actually mill some Shaddoll monsters. Are going to activate Havness now in the graveyard, as well as their Meta Noise. Meta Noise is going to activate now, resolving to add Havness back to the hand. And the Havness itself, of course, is going to fizzle because it's no longer in the grave. They're going to go into Gloomy here. Gloomy is going to activate, taking the Dragostapelia from our graveyard. Now it is officially his card. Kashtira Theosis targeting the Tearlaments Kashtira, summoning out the Fenrir from the deck. Fenrir then going to search the deck for a Raise Heart, actually going in to a decent Kashtira package here. Going to go for the Raise Heart, activating its effect, going to banish Unicorn from the deck to boost its level up, going into a Raise Heart. So a Raise Heart is a hell of a problem. They're going to use its effect, detach 3 materials, banishing Priscenion before using its effect, of course, to attach Priscenion back to itself into the battle phase to take out our Cartesia. Luckily for us, he doesn't have anything big enough to get over Labellion, so we are relatively safe right at this second. But he did put us in a very awkward spot. Titaniclad activating in the end phase, going to summon out our Fallen of Albaz, allowing us to discard Mercourier. Of course, it is negated by the Dragostapelia. That's not a surprise, but the fact that we discarded the Mercourier means that we can now use its effect to search our deck for a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that lists it in its description. So we're going to grab Kit, Springant's Kit. That's going to give us a search opportunity during our turn. Now that our Raise Heart is a bit of a problem, so we're going to need to dance around that quite smartly. We're going to use the Labellion, setting up Branded Beast, summoning out the Cartesia and the Kit, just to get as much of our resources on the board as possible. That's when he's going to go for Dragostapelia. We're going to dodge the Dragostapelia's effect by using Cartesia the Virtuous to fusion summon using the Kit before Dragostapelia has the chance to apply its Predator counter. They're going to summon out Havness from their hand. Of course, they don't get to mill anything because our Raise Heart's on the field. We're going to go into Rindbrum. We summon Rindbrum very, very intentionally because this is a negate for an extra deck monster. So now we're put in a position where we can pop his Raise Heart using the Branded Beast. We're going to send that back to deck. We're going to go for a Raise Heart. Branded Lost is going to activate as well. We're going to chain to that Branded Beast, tributing off the Labellion to target the Erase Heart to destroy it. He's going to chain the Erase Heart to try and banish our Rindbrum. It doesn't matter what he targeted because Rindbrum is here specifically because we know we can use it to banish or negate, that Erase Heart. Now, unfortunately, at this point, we were pretty damn low on the timer, so I didn't have time to fully extend out this turn. Otherwise, it could have been a lot better. What we're going to do here is Mercourier is going to grab us a Fallen of Albaz. We're going to go for Battle Phase, taking out the Gloomy. Unfortunately, again, we don't have very much more room to do very much more with this turn. I would have loved to have gone for Albion's effect and Branded Fusion to do a bunch of crazy shit, and we really could have ended the game this turn, but I had literally 0 seconds left on the timer. And anyone who's watched any of my live streams know that that's true, because I can play to the timer. But again, he didn't have anything on him. Rindbrum has its negate. We have all of our cards here. Just, it's simply too much for him, and he has to submit. Fair enough. And again, it was a bit dicey. That was a very close game, and Branded seems to be in that sort of style where it's like barely winning its games, but it's doing it consistently enough for it to be considered good. Now again, it could be inexperience, and you're going to see some symptoms and signs of inexperience in some of these other duels that I'm going to show you. So maybe this is just going to be a game of practice. And the deck list seems fine. The deck list seems pretty strong. In some of the other games, we were playing additional Bestials, or maybe we were playing Ad Libitum and things, which we ended up removing, and you're going to see why we removed them. But yeah, all in all, let's just keep on going through the games, and we'll talk about them as they happen. Alrighty, getting into the next game here. We're going to start with Albion the Shrouded Dragon. We're going to drop Branded Regain to the graveyard. Grabbing Branded Beast. We're going to use Branded Fusion here. It does unfortunately get hit with Ash Blossom. That is the single biggest weakness of the deck, and most replays in which you're going to see this deck lose are replays in which Ash Blossom is activated. So on this occasion, we're going to sit on Branded Beast. We're going to use Maxi, hopefully to keep ourselves alive here, but luckily we're playing against Labyrinth. Labyrinth is a bit of a problem for Branded, but it being so popular also means that there's very, very rarely are they going to beat you in one turn. So we're going to use Branded Beast. We're able to set up a Branded Regained thanks to Branded Beast. So now whenever we draw into Aliber and we're suddenly in a good spot. We're going to go Aliber here, grabbing Branded Opening. We're going to use Branded Opening. We're going to drop Tragedy to the graveyard, unfortunately being met with an Ash Blossom, which really does hurt. Big Welcome Labyrinth, of course, is going to sting as well, but we're going to hit that with a Maxi of our own, just so that we can attempt to get even a small amount of advantage from it. They're going to go for Lovely Labyrinth of the Silver Castle, of course, bouncing Ariana back to hand, which is pretty standard for them. We're going to draw the Albion here, Branded Opening, going to pitch the Albion to the graveyard to grab ourselves a Despian Tragedy. We're going to use Lovely Labyrinth. They're going to pop the Branded Beast, which is unfortunate. Albion then drops Retribution, the special summon itself, back to the field. We're going to try and push for Lethal on this turn. We're going to go Retribution, adding Branded Fusion back to hand. Fuck it, we're just going full tilt. If we try to enter a grind game with Labyrinth, we are definitely going to lose, so we decide we're just going to send it and see what happens. Albion then going to use its effect to Fusion Summon, using a Tragedy in hand to go into Lobelion, the Searing Dragon. Lobelion then activating Chainlink 1, dropping Tragedy. Branded Regain activating Chainlink 2 to revive the Tragedy back into the deck. And then the Banished Tragedy then, of course, activates its Chainlink 3 to search our deck for a Despian monster. We're going to grab another copy of Aliber. Branded Regained, going to shuffle it back, draw one, there's Called by the Grave. We're going to go now with Lobelion into Mirror Jade, the Ice Blade Dragon. Now, they're on our field at the moment is enough monsters for us to go for lethal damage. Because he activated Duel there, Duel actually prevents him from drawing cards off of Maxi. So at this stage, he's no longer drawing cards. So I decide we're going to go a little bit further with the Bestie Lobelion here. We're going to use the Bestie Lobelion, setting up Branded Lost. We're going to go into the battle phase. Mirror Jade is going to drop Regrand, going to banish the monster there. We're going to swing in, but he's got the Lady Labyrinth. Unfortunately, too big on that 2900 defense. We're going to set Called by the Grave and Branded Banishment. We're going to go Regrand to summon out the Fallen of Albaz. We're going to use the Fallen of Albaz to fuse away his lady into Titaniclad, the Ash Dragon. And we've completely dismantled his board. He has 7 cards in hand, though, and one of those hands is unfortunately evenly matched. That stings. We have quite an impressive board. We did it on fairly rough conditions, so you can see how the power of Branded sort of flourished a little bit here, but unfortunately, evenly matched do be that card, and I don't believe we stick around very much longer here, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think it goes Cool Clock, sets something. I really don't think we stick around much longer. Let him go through some of his plays. Cool Clock back to the field. I guess we did give it to the end of the turn. We're going to draw for turn. We draw into a Despian Tragedy. We do try to make it work here, actually, because we do still have our Branded Banishment face down. Big Welcome Labyrinth going to activate to summon out a Labyrinth monster from the deck or graveyard. They're going to summon out the Lovely from the grave. That is totally fine. They're going to bounce Cool Clock back to hand. We're going to go Despian Tragedy to add Branded Fusion back to the field, face down. Unfortunately, of course, he does have the Lovely Labyrinth, which does have the ability to pop the card. Going to activate a bunch of chains. They're going to go to Chainlink 4. We're going to flip up Branded Banishment, revealing Albion in the graveyard. He's going to go Eradicator, tributing off the Lovely, which would have been our fusion target with the Albion, so we're not actually left with anything decent to fuse into. Branded Fusion, of course, getting popped because it was a spell card. Albion coming out to the field, 2500 attack points, but there's nothing left to really fusion summon into given the field. He's going to grab back Chandelier, going to search his deck for a card, summoning out the Lady using its effect. Pops the last remaining card in our hand using his Lovely. We take out the Ariana just for a little bit of damage to make myself feel a little bit better. But no, we most certainly cannot come back from that evenly matched. And that's just it. It's tough for many decks to come back from evenly matched under those circumstances. But I feel like it did show off a lot of what makes Branded good right now. A lot of the power behind the deck. Of course, opening turn wasn't all that strong. But we came back decently. We came back swinging. We almost got it. And unfortunately, it simply wasn't meant to be. So let's get in the next game. Alright, getting into game 3 here. This was a earlier replay where we were using Ad Libitum and a couple of additional bestials. We were using a Branded in red and things like that, which we later dropped as I was doing more research and more practice. And these cards were very suboptimal, and you can see this hand is a perfect example. We're going to go for Cartesia here. We're going to fuse it and the Saronir to go into the Dusk Dragon. I might double up on the Dusk Dragon. I really like this card. Saronir then going to activate to basically mill a card out from the deck as well. We're going to send Branded Retribution just in case we need to use it. We're going to send Albion the Shrouded Dragon. Albion sending Branded Fusion to the graveyard so we can use Retribution, banishing itself to add it back to our hand. So that's another way of getting into your one of Branded Fusion if you don't have a direct search. Very easy method of doing it as well. So we're going to go Magnomet now. We're going to banish Saronir from the grave using the Magnomet to search our deck for a dragon during the end of the turn. Magnomet's still definitely a decent card if you want to include this. I ended up cutting it just because we needed to maximize on effective starters. We're going to go Branded Fusion, then dropping a couple cards to the grave to go into Albion, the Branded Dragon, including Labellion here from the grave. We're going to go Albion Fusion summoning using the Magnomet and our Albaz to go into Labellion, the Searing Dragon. Labellion then, of course, discarding a card to Fusion Summon using itself and Albaz into Mirror Jade, the Ice Blade Dragon. We're going to tribute off Albion for Labellion. This is just standard plays, at least from the last time I played Branded. Unfortunately, they have the Rock. They had the Rock. The thing about this deck though, and the thing that you should know about Branded is that yeah, this looks rough, but the thing that Branded specializes in is the end phase, right? So we're going to go for Dust Dragon here on the summon of Nibiru, as well as the activation of course of Mirror Jade. Dust Dragon's going to summon a Priskenion directly from the deck, and then during the end phase we wipe the board, we add back the Cartesia, we're going to add the Drissworm off the Magnomet, and we're going to add the Branded Banishment to the field off of the Albion. So all of a sudden this went from really bad to being kind of decent. So basically just off of all of our end phase effects. So that is definitely something worth bearing in mind. We have Cosmic Cyclone here, which, you know, was whatever. They're going to go Branded Banishment. We're going to bring back the Mirror Jade from the graveyard. Another Cosmic Cyclone targeting this, which initially seemed stupid. I was just like, oh, okay, this is a noob, whatever. But no, it's just, you're going to see why they're doing it in just a moment. They just need to have as many spells in their graveyard as possible, because look at their card slaves. What deck do you think they're playing? Maxi, of course, resolving. They're going to go main phase 1. They're playing Strikers. Royal Upstart Goblin into a Widow Anchor to take our Priskenion. Priskenion into attack position. Ray then normal summoning Ray and going into battle phase. The objective here with the Ray is that once my Mirror Jade is gone, they're planning on me activating Mirror Jade. Then they're going to chain to my Mirror Jade with a Ray to go into Hayate, dodging the effect and everything. But I think they just forgot that Mirror Jade doesn't target, right? So whenever we activate Mirror Jade, they realize that we don't target, and then they scoop up, right? So they just didn't understand Mirror Jade, but because we were able to put up such a decent board, they weren't able to do very much about it. But either way, let's get into the deck profile. Alright, here we have it. So Branded is definitely a deck that over the next little while I'm going to be playing a lot more of. I'm going to be trying to learn some of the new combo routes and trying to maximize the full potential of the deck, because I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not there yet, right? But this is the list that I've been using. Again, I've cross-referenced and done a lot of research, and I think this list is going to be very similar to what the final product is going to look like. I'm not telling you it's 100% what I'm going to end up playing, but it's going to be extremely close. So we're going to go through a deck profile here. Again, if you guys want to pick this up, play it, learn how to play it. Maybe we've got any experienced Branded players out there who have any suggestions, who maybe want to go through anything. Absolutely, you've got the comments down below, and of course the Discord, which is the better place to do it. If you want to leave anything or ask any questions or leave any suggestions or anything like that, the Discord is the best place to share ideas and deck lists, but there's also the comment section if you'd rather do that. But yeah, we're going to go through what we're playing at the minute, starting with the hand traps just to get them done and out of the way. Got the triple Maxi, triple Ash Blossom, double Call By, single Crossout. You absolutely must play those cards because of the existence of Ash Blossom and Maxi. Ash Blossom kills this deck, it really does. Ash Blossom's super just rough to play against for sure. We're playing triple Tactics Thrust. With the Thrust, we're playing Harpist Feather Duster, Imperm, triple Tactics Talent, and that's pretty much it. So this is close to your core cards. You also don't really need to play Branded Beast. I'm going to count this as a flex spot. Branded Beast you don't need to play. I was playing it, but since I cut down on the Bestials, it's not as useful, so I would definitely cut it as well. So there's 15 spots with which you can do whatever you want. If you want to play hand traps, if you want to play board breakers, if you want to play maybe additional engine cards, more Bestials, whatever, right? 15 spots, go nuts. These 25 cards are what I would say you almost kind of have to play in order to sort of get the best out of the deck. Maybe reissues you can adjust. Maybe you don't like 2 Tragedy, maybe you don't like 2 Saronir, whatever. But these are the cards that I would say are very powerful and good to play. Starting with Despian Tragedy. Despian Tragedy, if it's sent to the graveyard or banished by a card effect, you get to search your deck for a Despian monster not at the hand. You can also banish it from the graveyard to target a branded spell or trap and set it back to your field. Excellent searching and recycling tool. Fallen of Albaz is here for his name, that's it. Alibra, the Jester of Despia, on summon will search your deck for a branded spell or trap card, so it's an excellent way to ensure consistency. Tri-Brigade Mercurier is sort of dual purpose. Number one, it's a hand trap, so if you have a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz's material, like your Mirror Jade or Albion or whatever, you can, if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard to negate that activation. Pretty straightforward stuff. If this card is ever banished, you can add from deck to hand a Fallen of Albaz or any monster that mentions it in its text. So it's a hand trap and it's a searching tool. Kit on summon will search your deck for a branded spell or trap that's either banished or in your deck or graveyard, add it to hand. Then you'll take a card in your hand and place it back into your deck. So this card is vital at the minute because not only are we lacking on consistency and starters, this card also helps recycle your branded fusion from the graveyard, which is very important now that we've only got one copy. So Kit, I would say, as a one-of is necessary. And if you have a fusion monster that mentions the Fallen of Albaz on your field or graveyard, you can actually special summon this card for free. So it means that even on a turn where you've used Alibra as your normal summon or anything like that, Springgan's Kit can still be free follow-up. Cartesia is the new sort of centerpiece of the deck, the new focus of the deck, and allows significantly more freedom when it comes to fusion and field manipulation. Basically, if you control the Fallen of Albaz, or if you have the Fallen of Albaz in your graveyard, you can special summon this card directly from your hand. During the main phase, as a quick effect, you can fusion summon into a level 8 or higher fusion using your field and hand as materials. So this allows you to quick play fusion summon, which is absolutely amazing. It helps you dodge certain effects. It helps you bring out really powerful monsters like the Dust Dragon. So Cartesia is awesome. She also can, during the end phase of a turn in which a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard, she will add herself back from the graveyard to your hand. So she recycles herself as well, ensures positive card advantage, which can be a bit of an issue in this deck. So yeah, everything about Cartesia is amazing. We're playing her at 2 because we got triple copies of Fusion Deployment, which I'll get to in a minute. And she's decently easy to search, so I don't really think you need 3, but you could go 3 if you want. It's not going to do you any harm. We're just playing 2 Saronir when it comes to the Bestials. Saronir, when sent to the graveyard, will send a branded spell or trap or a Bestial monster from the deck to the graveyard. It can also, of course, special summon itself by banishing a light or a dark monster from either player's graveyard, just like any Bestial monster. We're not playing the rest of the Bestials because they don't add a lot to the deck, and we constantly find ourselves in positions where they just weren't doing anything. I think in a metagame filled with Kashtira and the likes of Labyrinth and such, where they're decent but they're not super effective, has left them in a position where in Branded, the deck in which they're meant to be used, they're simply not as powerful. I like Bestials as a whole. I think Bestials are awesome based upon, I mean, I recently uploaded a Bestial Thunder Dragon deck, but in this deck, they just feel a little bit lackluster, I'm not going to lie. So yeah, I think the Bestials, I think Saronir is a really good one because you can mill out your Branded Fusion or your Branded Retribution or something like that to find alternative ways of adding it to your hand. But in general, the other Bestials are not super valuable. We have Albion the Shrouded Dragon. This card is pretty decent. Basically, while it's in your hand or your graveyard, you can send a Fallen of Albaz or a branded spell or trap from hand or deck to the graveyard. Then you can either do one of the following. If you sent the card from your hand to the graveyard, you can special summon this card. If you sent it from the deck to the graveyard, you will place this card on the bottom of the deck, and if it was in your hand, if this card was in your hand when you activate that effect, you can draw a card. Basically, it replaces itself. So it's a nice way of getting additional cards into the grave. You want to send Retribution to to re-add a card back to your hand. If you want to play Branded Beast, if you ended up going down the Beast route. If you want to send Branded Fusion, Branded Opening maybe for its protection effect, whatever. You basically get to send whatever you want to the graveyard, and it can be decently useful. And then we have the Bestial Libellion, which can discard itself to grab a Bestial monster. It can special summon itself from the graveyard or hand to the field by tributing a level 6 or higher Dark Dragon, ideally your Albion, as you saw in the gameplay. Once per turn, you can use its effect to activate a branded continuous spell or trap directly from the deck face up onto the field, and we are using that effect to play Branded Lost. which will enable the searching of your Mercurier or your kit, all of this follow-up, as well as potentially even protecting your fusion summons. So Bestial Lubellion is pretty dope, that's for damn sure. Foolish Burial and Gold Sarcophagus are here to utilize the effects of things like your Mercurier and your Tragedy, which have effects when either sent to the graveyard or banished by card effects, respectively. So these are here primarily for that purpose. You don't need to play them, but they're definitely pretty damn good. So I would say playing them is not a bad option. I would cut Gold Sarc before I would cut Foolish Burial. I think Burial is definitely better, but Sarc is still pretty damn good, especially for that Mercurier and the Tragedy. Fusion Deployment. So with Fusion Deployment, you reveal a fusion monster in your extra deck and you special summon a monster specifically listed on that card to the field from your hand, deck, or graveyard, but you can only fusion summon for the rest of the turn from the extra deck. Do you summon from the hand or deck? Sorry, not graveyard. So you summon from hand or deck. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Fusion Deployment to reveal the Dust Dragon to summon Cartesia directly from the deck in order to, again, have her on board to generate some fusion advantage. So Cartesia is going to be one of the main ways in which you can get a turn and a board going without actually relying upon your Brand of Fusion, because again, one Ash and this card's done, right? So Fusion Deployment's sick. Branded in White is not a card I was playing in the past. Branded in White I'm only playing now because, again, of how vulnerable Branded Fusion is. Having another card available to you to fusion summon is just so important, right? So basically you can use this to fusion summon using your hand field as well as your graveyard. If you're using the Fallen of Albaz as material, it can banish itself from the hand field or graveyard as material too. So it's just an additional copy of a fusion spell that you can use in a situation where Brand of Fusion gets negated. Speaking of Brand of Fusion, it's actually next up. This was once upon a time the centerpiece of Branded. It still kind of is, but because it's been limited to 1, the consistency of the card has dropped massively and it's very vulnerable to Ash Blossom as well as some forms of interruption. Basically, you fusion summon any monster that lists the Fallen of Albaz as material from your extra deck by using 2 monsters from your hand, deck, or field as material. So you basically get the fusion summon using your deck, right? Which is awesome. It locks you into fusion monsters only, but that's not a problem. So Brand of Fusion is pretty dope, but it's very easily interruptible. Branded Lost has a couple of different effects. The activation of your cards and effects that include an effect of fusion summon cannot be negated, and your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a fusion monster is fusion summoned. Now, what's important to note is negating the activation of an effect and negating an effect are 2 completely different things. So Branded Lost will not protect you from the likes of Infinite Impermanence, from Ash Blossom, things like that, but it will protect you from the likes of Baron de Fleur, of Solemn Judgment, things like that. So it's important to know that difference. It will not protect you from things that negate the effect of your card. It will protect you specifically from things that negate the activation of your card. If you do fusion summon while this card is face up, you get to search your deck for Fallen of Albaz or any monster that mentions it and add it to your hand. So it's a good way of searching Mercurier as a way to set up an additional interruption on a turn 1 board, or you can search for something like Kit or Cartesia for follow-up if you are setting up for the next turn. Branded Opening will allow you to discard a card as a quick play spell. Discard a card, take a Despia monster from the deck, and then either add it to your hand or special summon it. You can also banish this card from your graveyard to protect a fusion monster from being destroyed by card effect. Pretty straightforward stuff, basically just additional copies of Alibur. Lastly, we got Branded Retribution. Whenever a spell, trap, or monster affected is activated that special summons a card, you can return from your 1 face-up fusion monster from your field, or 2 from your graveyard that mention the Fallen of Albaz as material, and you can negate that card and destroy it. You can also banish this card from the graveyard to target a branded spell or trap in the grave and add it back to hand. So it's a negate as well as being a recycling tool. Getting into the extra deck, there's a little bit of flexibility when it comes to the extra deck, so let's talk about some of the core things first. We of course have Albion, Lubellion, and Mirror Jade, the classic trio of Branded. That's the main 3 monsters. So basically, Albion, when fusion summoned, will allow you to conduct another fusion summon by banishing monsters from your hand, field, and graveyard. During the end phase of the turn in which this card was sent to the graveyard, you can set a branded spell or trap card directly to the field. Lubellion, when fusion summoned, will allow you to discard a card to fusion summon, again, this time shuffling monsters back from your field, graveyard, and banish pile to conduct your fusion summon. This card can't attack on the turn in which you use it, so no other fancy effects on this guy. And your actual main boss monster, Mirror Jade the Iceblade Dragon, once per turn as a quick effect, well, once every 2 turns as a quick effect, you'll send a fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard that mentions the Fallen of Albaz to non-targeting banish a monster on the field. You can only use that effect once every 2 turns, but it's a soft restriction, so if you were to like get rid of this card, and then if you were to bring it back, you could use its effect again, right? During the end phase of a turn in which this card was destroyed or left field, basically due to an opponent's card effect, you get to wipe their whole board of monsters. You get to destroy all their monsters. So Mirror Jade is a very powerful boss monster, it really is. And using this little chain of summoning, you can summon it out very, very easily. Again, watch the gameplay, we do it, we show it off. I'm not going to sit here and explain it. It's all in the gameplay. In terms of the other cards and other options that are absolutely mandatory, we have the Dusk Dragon. Whenever this card is fusion summoned, you will send a level 6 or higher light or dark monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard. It can also banish itself from the field or graveyard when your opponent special summons a monster, to special summon a Despia monster straight from the extra deck, or a Dogmatica monster from your main deck. So, Dusk Dragon, very powerful card overall. We've got Rindbrum, which will, when your opponent activates the effect of a Fusion, Synchro Exceed, or Link monster, you can negate that effect and then return 1 monster from the field to the hand. It doesn't have to be the one that used the effect, but it can be. So you negate and bounce. While this card's in the graveyard during your opponent's turn, you can target this, as well as a Fallen of Albaz in your graveyard. You special summon one of them, and you banish the other. So it gives you a lot of flexibility for additional interruptions as well. Priscenion is here basically to be summoned off of the Dusk Dragon's effect. During the main phase, target a Fusion, Synchro Exceed, or Link monster in your opponent's graveyard. Either banish it or summon it to your field. Pretty straightforward stuff. If it destroys a monster by battle, you'll inflict damage to your opponent equal to the higher of its 2 stats, its attack or defense. So pretty straightforward stuff. Again, it's a pretty big card, easily summoned off of the Dusk Dragon, and it can help steal pretty powerful cards from their graveyard if you've dealt with them, like a Baron de Fleur. Or something like that, if you've managed to deal with it. And then we have the rest of the extra deck, which is fairly flexible. We have the Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, which is decent. I didn't really use it though at any point, so you could get rid of this. Basically, when it's summoned, it will gain attack equal to 1 of your opponent's special summon monsters, and once per turn you can target a level 5 or higher monster your opponent controls, and this card's name and effect is replaced with that card's name and effect. If this is ever destroyed while on the field, you can destroy all of your opponent's special summon monsters. Dragostapelia will allow you to target a face-up monster in the field and put a predator counter on it. If that monster was level 2 or higher, its level becomes level 1, and this card, so long as it's face up, negates the activated effects of any monster that has a predator counter. Titaniclad gains attack points equal to the level of the monsters used for its fusion summon multiplied by 100, so it does get pretty big pretty quickly. It's fusion summon using a Fallen of Albaz and a monster with 2500 or more attack, so normally you're going to be summoning this using your opponent's monster, ideally through like a fusion with the Fallen of Albaz, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just summon it yourself because you need a huge beater, because this guy is also unaffected by the effects of monsters summoned from the extra deck until the end of the turn after it's summoned. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there that turn, you can special summon either a Dogmatica monster or a Fallen of Albaz directly from the deck. Titaniclad, definitely a very powerful card. And then we got Brigand, which is similar. Again, this guy can't be destroyed by battle. Someone using a level 8 or higher monster, so ideally it'll be one of your opponent's monsters you're using for this one. While you control this fusion summon card, your opponent cannot target other monsters for effects. That's fine. During the end phase, if it's in the graveyard, either search your deck or special summon for a Tri-Brigade or Fallen of Albaz. Basically just the Tri-Brigade version of Titaniclad, right? What else have we not talked about? We haven't talked about Albulanatus. Albulanatus is the oddball because this guy can be contact fused using the Fallen of Albaz on your board and any number of dragons from anywhere else on the board. So if you're playing against a deck that's using dragons, you can normal summon your Fallen of Albaz and just contact fuse the whole field away, right? So it's great against Dragon Link and things. It's not one that I've used very much because Dragon Link isn't as big right now. Certainly not on the ladder anyways. But so long as there are dragons around, this card will forever be relevant, basically. It's pretty solid. It gains a bunch of attacks depending on how many monsters you use for its summon, and during the end phase of the turn in which it's sent to the graveyard, you can add either Polymerization or a normal, a fusion normal spell from deck to hand. So its effects are decent, but it's primarily here for its fusion summoning conditions. And then lastly, we have Verte for a fallback plan to send Branded Fusion, right? And that's pretty much the whole deck. Again, this deck it's going to take a lot of practice. I'm going to discard changes. I'm going to load up the full deck again. This deck is definitely going to take a little bit of practice to master. Again, it's a different playstyle of what it was in the past. I used to know Branded pretty damn well. I used to fucking be able to rhyme it off and play it like an expert, but it has changed a lot with the continuous release of new supporting cards. Now we've got Thrust and Cartesia and all of these additional cards that have changed the playstyle of Branded, especially with Branded Fusion itself becoming significantly less consistent and reliable. So I will at some point be revisiting and re-uploading Branded in general, Branded Despia, because I will be looking to improve my skills with the deck. So if you want to catch that when it comes out, of course, subscribe just to catch the notification as it's coming out. Notifications for every video are also posted in the Discord if you're interested in just catching it through the Discord as well. If you're on Discord, you might as well. You're not losing anything by joining, so it's up to you. But that's going to wrap us up for here. If you got this far, like the video. Check the description for all the different platforms that we're live on. We've got Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. I've got all of that fun stuff. So if you're on those platforms and you want to get more engaged, you absolutely can down below. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.